Hi, today we are going to learn how to crochet a coaster in just 3 rounds. We are using super chunky t-shirt yarn and we're going to use some clever invisible join techniques to make sure that when you're finished it's going to be really hard to see where your rounds start and end. So let's get started with round 1. First we'll make a magic circle and chain 1. Next we'll make 5 single crochets into the circle. So you might notice that I'm using a hook that's a little bit smaller than what you would normally use for t-shirt yarn, and the reason is that we're going to be using the waistcoat stitch to crochet the rest of this coaster, and I just find it easier to use a smaller hook to do that, but you can use whatever hook size you're most comfortable with. So now we're nearly at the end of the 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now pull the tail to close up the circle. You want to pull it quite tight at this point to close that circle as much as you can. So next we're going to do the seamless join to end the round. So pull up a long loop and then insert your hook from back to front through the first single crochet, so not through the chain. Next, fold the loop over the hook and pull that loop all the way through to the back. So this is going to make a false stitch on top of that first chain 1. So from this point on we're going to be working the waistcoat stitch, which is through the V. So insert your hook through that first V of the first single crochet. Now take your working yarn and wrap it on top of the loop and then under the hook like this. Then wrap that loop back over the hook and pull it all the way through to the front. So you'll want to give the yarn a little pull, and you can see that we're ready to start the next round. So round 2, give that yarn a good pull, and now we're going to actually work over the tail as well. So we just bring the tail around to the front. Chain 1, and now keep working into that V. So make another single crochet into the V, and now keep working the rest of the round by doing 2 single crochets into the V, or you can also call it the waistcoat stitch. So 2 into each stitch all the way around. So you might find some of these stitches a bit tricky, but just remember this is the hardest round. Once you get past this one, the next couple of rounds are much easier. So just do your best. We'll just do these last 2 single crochets before we reach that chain 1 from the first round. Now this bit is a little bit tricky. We're going to try and work into that space between the chain 1 and the single crochet, and we'll do our 2 waistcoat stitches in there. And now we're finished the round. So we're going to end this round the same way as we did for the first round. So pull up a long loop, insert your hook from back to front through that first stitch, pop the loop onto the hook and bring it all the way through to the back. So now we'll go on to round 3. So again, we'll be working into that V, insert our hook, grab your working yarn over the loop behind the hook, pop the loop onto the hook and pull it through to the front. And again, we'll give that yarn at the back a little tug to tighten it up. And I still have a bit of the tail left, so I'm just going to keep working over the tail. So chain 1, and now we'll do our waistcoat stitch into that same V. So on this round we'll be increasing every second stitch. So we'll do 1 waistcoat stitch followed by 2 waistcoat stitches and then another one. So here's our increase done. And then 1 waistcoat stitch to the next. So we'll just repeat that pattern all the way around. 2 stitches, 1 stitch until we get back to the chain 1. So there you can see that fall stitch just above the chain 1. And now we'll do our very last stitch into the middle of that chain 1. Just get it as close as you can to the center. This is a bit tricky, but just make it look as neat as you can. So now we have done 3 rounds and we're ready to finish off that round. So a neat little trick here is that if you need to slip stitch around any piece of crochet, if you wrap the yarn around 6 times around the circumference of what you have, that would be how much yarn you need to finish off the slip stitch round. So there we go, wrap it around. I had already cut mine, but there you can see how long it needs to be. Now we're going to pull the yarn the whole way through that last stitch. And once it's through, we're going to insert the hook from back to front again, and then pull that yarn all the way through to the back. But instead of leaving a loop, we're going to just keep pulling the whole length of yarn all the way through. Now around to the front again, and you can see we're nearly there. We have that yarn pulled all the way through. Now at the back, you need to find your last single crochet and push the hook up through that back bump and the back loop. And then yarn over and pull the yarn all the way through. And then keep pulling. And what this will do is make a fall stitch above that first chain 1 of the round, and as you can see, it's almost invisible. So now we're on to our border round. We have our yarn at the back, and we'll insert our hook through that fall stitch that we just made and pull up a loop. And now we're just going to slip stitch the whole way around through the top of that last round. Just keep slip stitching until we get back to the start. We're going to stop now before we do the very last slip stitch. So now you can see we have one more left that would bring us back to the start. So we're going to pull the yarn all the way through that last stitch. We'll finish off with another invisible join. So to do that, we're going to insert the hook from the top to bottom through that very first slip stitch and pull the yarn up and all the way through. And to finish, we need to put the hook from back to front, but we need to put it through the very center of that last slip stitch. So just stick it through there, and now bring that last bit of yarn all the way through to the back. And when we're done, we just tidy up that last stitch a little bit, but you can see that the join is almost imperceptible. It's very, very hard to see where you finished off that round. So if you flip around to the back, I've just weaved in that last end and we're all done.